Okay, so I am doing my presentation on smart cities. Um, Obviously, the technology is a little interesting when it comes to smart cities. They can be looked at either as like this biotechnical and innovation-driven utopia almost, or like a techno-oligarchic nightmare, more of like cyberpunky that we're used to. Well, I think that this is maybe more concept driven than other presentations. I think that it is very interesting to think about and to look at, mostly because of us being kind of the new drivers and innovators of technology, and we should know kind of more and more about what we're looking at. So I'm going to get into it. This is a picture, I believe, in Singapore, which is kind of looked at as like the benchmark for um, smart city technology. It's got a lot of both surveillance heavy, but also a lot of really powerful innovation that is genuinely improving people's lives. So yeah, we're gonna go into it a little bit more. Can I click forward? Okay. Educational purposes only. Gotta get those points. So what are smart cities? Smart cities, I like the term from the American Planning Association. Uh, A smart city is a city that has equitable, integrated technology, community, and nature to enhance its livability, sustainability, and resilience while fostering innovation, collaboration, and participatory co-creation. So this is, in a sense, very smart cities. The reason I like this definition is because it emphasizes co-creation and nature. I think that the idea of wanting like an environmentally friendly and ecosystemically driven um, city is incredibly intriguing to a lot of people in our generation simply because of climate change and such. But we can think of it as kind of a mix of solar and cyberpunk. That's how I like to think of it. I read a lot of books. I get a lot of ideas, whatever. It is very idealistic. So that is one thing that when we're looking at smart cities in quotations, which is why I tend to put them in quotations, is because you have to take it with a grain of salt. This is not perfect. This is like an idea of what we could be working towards or could be working against. So in any case, it is a future where technology is more integrated into life in like an urban sprawl. So that is what we're mostly looking at and talking about when we talk about smart cities. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept and one that I think has not been explored to its maximum and will not be for a long time. So let's look at a few things. The original concept that I like to use is the 1974 City of Los Angeles deciding to use and integrate IBM supercomputers to help them with figuring out more issues within their census. They were looking at a lot of data that was hard to figure out um, when it came to ideas of like poverty and homelessness and addiction. So they decided to first incorporate more technology, like actually incorporate it into their decision-making process and things. And the goal of this project was to inform policy and action to alleviate poverty. That is very specific. There's a reason I bring that as the original concept rather than something more unrealistic, non-realistic, like Metropolis, which was a movie back in the 1920s that was very like Gilded Age, fabulous, innovation, automation, blah 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 blah. This is something that's much more grounded in reality. This is something that was policy heavy and technically heavy. So I think that it was a great indicator of where things would go because as we can see now, it's not just technology that drives these ideas of innovation, but it is a lot of politics and policy. What the original idea that this author Brat credits is the city council and their push towards um, ending poverty. So this is another. Let me move my face over here so you can see the citation. But this is another. Um, kind of the pillars of what we think of as support for smart cities. This was done by Hartley and Aldug in 24. So the biggest things for public support in my mind and on this paper is like the perception of what information security looks like. Willingness to sacrifice privacy is obviously a huge one. Awareness of the concept, which has more to do with like circulating graphics and propaganda, not like bad propaganda, but just like circulating information. And then perception too. So people have to generally assume that like smart cities are improving their lives. This is why companies like Amazon's Ring have to present their technology as something to help find missing persons rather than really as like a facial recognition surveillance technology, which is what it actually is, obviously. If you haven't watched that Super Bowl commercial for Ring, I implore you to check it out because it is pretty scary. So I'm gonna move back over here. This I don't remember. I don't remember what the picture is. So I want to talk about four things in general, four instances of this. So we have traffic sensing network in Oulu, Finland from 2013, which I think is maybe an instance of good privacy and technology coming together where the public generally supported it more, even though the privacy was probably lacking. We have flock automatic license plate readers and drones here in the US, which is something that the public, which is a privacy violation that the public generally is against. One of the more interesting things that I don't quite have a full grasp on is the biotechnological integration into cities' applications and IoT devices, which is a paper that that I'm basing this research on a paper that came out of Moscow in 2020, which I highly recommend people read because it's quite interesting. And then we have another kind of warning of Songdo's Icheon Integrated Operations Center, which is a city in South Korea that kind of fell apart, uh, even though they integrated all of these sensors and things into that because of the rigidity of it. So let's look at everything quick so I don't go too over time. Traffic, and then I'm gonna do just like a bit of ethical approach at the end because we've touched on that in the city, I mean in this class. Um, so the traffic sensing network study in Oulu, Finland, it came out of the University of Oulu um, in 2013, so 13 years ago. Um, it's pretty funny because the Wi-Fi network that they used for this had over 1,300 access points, which is kind of insane. And like I noted in here, it's probably unsafe now because like where are you storing these access points? Who's got access to these access points? This is probably not the greatest thing ever. And so each of the Wi-Fi points had like its coordinates geolocated. But then they also captured 13,000 unique devices and recorded them and sent them to the central server. So the paper doesn't go into it, but I'm assuming it's like cell phones and not like vehicle things because they call them devices, which is obviously a huge privacy violation because there was not a general consensus to this. Um, and then there was an interesting like sensors in an inductive loop technology under the roadway. That was kind of like it's binary technology, so it's either on or it's off. Kind of like if you're taking a left turn in a lane, it can sense if your car is in the left turn lane or not. Uh, and then they heat mapped everything and divided like local devices versus non-local. Local devices being had visited the area consistently. And then there's a quote by Constakos Oyala and Yundunen. Sorry, Finnish names are hard for me, being Swedish, but we were the only ones to raise the issue of privacy. That's what they said in the paper, which is funny because the policy did not care about the privacy, only the scientists did, which say what you will about it. It's what it is. Flock surveillance. I'm going to do a little demo on this because obviously this is a very hot issue for us today. Um, It's developing, but the Flock is a company in Atlanta, Georgia, and it has now taken over many, many cities, thousands of cities with it's like signed agreements with thousands of cities to provide them with hundreds of thousands of or maybe I should say more than 100,000 automatic license plate readers, which is AI enhanced facial recognition and it's an object recognition database. So it records everything. As cars drive by, make, model, color of the car, any unique identifiers like scratches, bumps, dents, whatever. And then obviously it does people too. They don't market it this way, but it does do people. So that is something to be aware of. And then it uploads it unencrypted to a national database, which is also something to be aware of. This is an insane privacy violation. But people know this, and there's policy against it trying to get these cameras and such out of the city. Sorry, my mic is so annoying. Um, it also provides law enforcement with like an AI-powered search engine so they can search through the database as easy as they want. And it's like they can have an operating system for it. So the technology is very easy to use for cops and other law enforcement. It's very easy to misuse as well. There's been numerous cases of cops stalking and harassing like their exes and things like that with flock surveillance and flock technology. It is also provides false positives, the technology about 10% of the time, which is kind of a lot. People are getting indicted over this because the AI says like, oh, we saw you on the flock camera. And like you were doing a crime or something, and you're like, no, I wasn't even in the state, but you get arrested for it anyway. This isn't me trying to be like all crazy about it. Like this is happening. Um, Flock, again, like I said earlier, presents this as like we can look for missing people, we can like we'll keep you safe, blah blah blah. It's the same thing as Ring. What it really is just mass surveillance. So don't get it twisted. They also do, which is a more future tech, drone as a first responder, DFAR. Uh, DFAR. Uh, this is more policy that's trying to be pushed through, but they do have the ability to do this now, which is basically just having drones not replace, but assist law enforcement, which I don't know exactly what a drone's ability is with first responding, but I'm quite sure that they will not be providing medical care to anybody. So let's look at the demo. This is the demo. I hope that people can see this. I believe they can. This is deflock.org. I think it is a very interesting and uh, necessary tool. So basically, what it does is it is a database of all of the flock cameras that shows you exactly where they are. It does a timeline of when they popped up here in the cities. Oh no, is it not popping up? I just had it. No, there it is. So we can look at this. This is a heat map of all the flock cameras in the US right now. It's quite a lot, especially on the East Coast in California. We can look at it down here in the cities. Um, you can map your route. It does all cool stuff. You can map your route so that you can avoid them and stuff. I like the timeline, which I think is interesting. How do I throw this up to the top? Because when we change it to orange colors, we can see exactly when they really started to pop up in the heart of the city, and it was um, November-ish this year, um, just before Operation Metro Surge, which is interesting. You can see all of them start to pop up right around here. So yeah, take of that what you will, but certainly interesting. So yeah, you can analyze this however you want. Again, deflock.org. Go for it. What else do you have? Oh, biotechnical innovations. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, even though I like it a lot. I highly encourage people to check this out, how IoT can integrate biotechnological approaches for city applications by Gotoskev, Russian guy, person, actually. I don't know who, if they're a guy or a woman, but um, yeah, so it's kind of like advancements in medicine, pharmacy, agriculture, and environmentalism, which is very exciting and interesting. It's about integrating IoT sensors, which is the same kind of IoT sensors that do traffic cameras and things like that, and push them to help out like bioreactors for microalgae, which can assist in water and air treatment, like decreasing pollution, that kind of thing. And again, like we're talking about, smart cities, in the definition of them, have to incorporate nature. So if we're talking about what a smart city can do, it should incorporate nature. So anytime you see anybody talking about a smart city, and they're not talking about environmentalism on it, just know that they're not talking about a real smart city. More vertical farming and stuff. I don't have time to go into all of this, but I highly recommend people checking it out, especially the microbial fuel cells, the MFCs, um, which have a lot to do with creating uh, what do you call it? Renewable energy type of things, and all of these would be on a wireless sensor network. Um, so there's maybe more to be done with edge computing and wireless LANs, but that is easy, all things considered. So Songdo's integrated operations center. It's mostly seen as more of a failure because of the top-down approach that innovation was given, even though there was like decentralized physical infrastructure networks, like smart city, like smart homes and things like that. There was no innovation that was able to come up through people and things like that. It was kind of like demanded of people that they do this or that with the technology. And the smart home appliances become obsolete because they're really just kind of like trinkets. They're really not anything that's built to last. They're just there to look cool. But it was built with 500,000 sensors. This is more of a philosophical approach to technology, and that it has to be innovative from the ground up more than from the top down, though it can be a mix of both. But as we see a lot with Flock and stuff like that, anytime it really comes from the top down, we're talking about a lot of surveillance more. Uh, okay, ethical approach, utilitarianism would be what is best for everybody, for the most amount of people. When we're talking about what is best for the most amount of people, obviously we're talking more about biotechnology and the approach of photobiotic. Oh God, I hope I said that right. Sensors in um, general improvement of life rather than improvement of security. Uh, because security is just one of the pillars, privacy is just one of the pillars. But when we're talking about utilitarian and human rights, we're talking about general improvement of life and non-violations of security and privacy. So, non-violations of privacy through security. With virtuousness, you can go either way with it, really. Virtuousness can be um, either one person saying that we need more security for it, or person saying that there needs to be more bioefficiency and environmentalism. So I don't want to get too into that, but this is most of my presentation. I feel like if I had more time, I would go into more of it, but I hope that people found this interesting and enjoyed it. And again, I recommend everybody go check out that biotechnology article because it really is kind of the stuff of the future that I find interesting.